Twilight takes a DNA test. Why would you expect anything else? Twilight stared blankly at the test results floating before her. Her ears drew back and her left eye twitched every so often.
Are you sure that this is accurate?
She said.
I'm certain, Your Highness,
answered the doctor, a distressed earth pony with a lemon-colored mane and tangerine coat, shaking on her hooves. She cowered before Twilight like a prostrating worshipper about to be struck down by a mercurial goddess. Taking a single step back, she bumped her rear into the door of the princess's study. Her eyes scanned the small room as if searching for an escape. Princess Twilight, for her part, found this display of fear irritating to her senses, so she let out a quiet sigh and schooled her face to something more pleasant and diplomatic.
Citrus, please try to relax. I'm not upset with you. I'm just confused.
Citrus's thick knees knocked together with a loud clack, the echo deafening in the small chamber.
I understand, Your Highness,
she said, her teeth chattering.
I'm always this nervous. This is the premier expert in genetics in Equestria? Good grief.
Resting the growing urge to slam her hoof through her face, Twilight waved the sheet of paper in her magic, and then gestured to a nearby armchair.
Of course, I understand. Shall we go over this, please? Of course,
replied the doctor, as she jerked forward and collapsed into the armchair. Twilight let out another small, barely audible sigh and plopped herself down in her own chair, behind the desk.
So, let's start with the basics.
Citrus leaned forward and hunched over the desk.
So, as you'd expect, the vast majority of your DNA is Equus sapiens unicornis, specifically from the ethnic groups of High Unicornia and Canterlot Dominions. House Sparkle has been around for a very long time, after all.
Twilight nodded. Now that they were getting into some details, her initial bemusement had transformed into academic curiosity.
Alright, that makes sense. My mother can track her lineage back all the way to the first few generations after Princess Platinum.
Rolling her eyes, she muttered under her breath.
Not that she cares about it, being too busy throwing herself over Niagara Falls at least 5 times a day.
The doctor's right ear quirked up, a small grin briefly gracing her muzzle.
That sounds like my brother. He's such a daredevil. He likes to ski on the most treacherous of mountains. Really?
Twilight said, arching an eyebrow.
Is his name Double Diamond, by any chance?
Citrus's pupil shrank into teeny tiny dots, her mouth falling open.
How did you know that? Ha! Score 1 for random guesses.
Twilight amused herself by forming her mouth into an enigmatic smile, just like Celeste used to give her all the time.
I'm the princess.
A faint red blush blossomed on Citrus's cheeks.
Wow, you're even more of an incredible pony than I'd heard.
Twilight managed to resist the temptation to snort, but just barely. Maintaining her enigmatic smile, she said,
So you were talking about the unicorn DNA? Oh!
The geneticist shook her head rapidly, and then focused on the paper sitting before her on the desk.
Yes. Well, if we trace the Equus sapiens unicornis DNA back from before the Exodus, we can see where it splits off from Equus sapiens progenitrix. Your DNA in total is at least 80% unicornis, which is much more pure than most ponies these days. Like I said, long lineage.
A dark frown twisted Twilight's muzzle.
And a lot of my foremothers were not really open-minded, as I am.
A cold chill ran through Twilight when she remembered the first time that she learned about her great-great to the nth something grandmother who was infamous for involvement in the brutal crackdown of Earth Pony rebellions back in the early days of Unicornia's history, and that was back when it was split into many fiefdoms. Baroness Twinkle the Terrible, she was called, at least in some of the texts that she'd read, and promptly buried in the furthest depths of the Canterlot archives, along with the records of the other 4 or 5 dictators in her family's history. Really, it's a wonder how she didn't turn out to be as insane as they were. Maybe Shining was right about her Twily Nana's behavior being inherited. She should thank her lucky stars that she hadn't gone mad with power the instant Celestia and Luna handed over the reins.
So, about the rest of it then.
Twilight said.
That's where I'm confused.
Confused was a good word. A diplomatic word. It was much better than the word that she wanted to use.
Well...
Citrus said, scanning the page.
There is always going to be some amount of mixing from during the earlier parts of the Exodus. We've discovered that Pony Society was nearly driven to extinction, and they had to work more closely together just to survive. That is why you have 2% Equus sapiens terras and 3% Equus sapiens pegasus DNA. It doesn't really surprise me at all. No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Twilight said with yet another quiet sigh.
Oh boy. I understand all of that, but what I don't get is the last part. The remaining 15%.
Citra swallowed, and Twilight could see the swallow running down her throat and into her belly. The poor nervous doctor tried to smile at her, but the strain and shakiness left it looking far more akin to her own mad grins back in the day than anything soothing.
Yes, I can see why that might confuse you, though in your case, it's about fivefold or more. It is something that we've noticed among many Candlelit unicorn families, suggesting a shared origin, which also might explain the genetic drift that causes eastern unicorns in places such as Napone. And it also might have to do with Discord's reign. Please stop.
Twilight ordered, holding up a hoof for silence. Citrus immediately shut her mouth, trembling harder than ever.
I'm well aware of the theories. I helped write some of those back when I was a Celestia student. But you're not telling me anything I don't know. What I want to know is this accurate?
Citrus's eyes promptly rolled up in her skull, the poor mare toppling out of her chair, save from cracking her skull on the marble flooring, only thanks to a quick catch by Twilight's field. She set the earth pony back down on the armchair, hopped up to her hooves, and began practicing Cadence's relaxation technique. In and out. In and out.
I am calm. I am calm. I am not angry. I am calm. Oh no, I'm not calm. This is absurd. This is ridiculous. It's not that it offends me or if it's bad. It just doesn't make any sense. How's it even possible? No. Twilight, calm. Calm, Twilight, calm. Oh, it's fine. I'll be fine. Just because there's no record historically whatsoever about how this is even possible. Oh, or how I could ever have any family that I don't know about or anything about the culture that I'm apparently a small part of. That's perfectly fine. I am not calm. I'm not calm. I'm upset. I'm confused. I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out!
Twilight screamed and squealed as she clapped her forehooves to the side of her head. She spent a couple of moments screaming to herself before her lack of breathing left her lightheaded. The rush interrupted her tirade just long enough for her to get enough of a grip.
No. I can be calm. I'm the princess of all of Equestria. I may have only been on the job for 3 weeks, but it's fine. I can handle it.
Thus determined, she spun on her heels, a determined, if strained smile plastered onto her muzzle. Leaning down, she aimed her horn squarely at the unconscious doctor, and used a combination of Beating Heart's basic bring back to consciousness, and Erina's peaceful tranquility to get Citrus both moving, and calm enough to not pass out again. Unfortunately, she must have injected a bit too much of the latter spell, because once up, Citrus smiled far too wide, and started giggling like a loon.
Oh, princess, I'm so sorry I passed out like that,
she said between her laughs.
Oh, look at the room spin. Where are we? Oh, this is why I tell Starlight not to use my magic.
Twilight thought as she gave in to her overwhelming urge to smack her face with her forehoof. Instead, she ignited her horn to exert just a small, eensy-teensy amount of a nullification spell for the calm, and managed to bring Citrus down to a more manageable level.
I think,
she said, resuming her seat,
that you were just about to tell me if these results are accurate, and how? Well...
Citra said, placing her forehooves on the desk. She'd stopped stammering, thanks Celestia, and looked at Twilight like the professional that she purported to be.
It is accurate, yes, princess. I ran the test at least 6 times, and the results might be unusual, but I'm certain that is correct. But... how?
Twilight pressed.
I don't understand.
Citrus leaned over and placed her chin down on her left forehoof.
There's very little historical data available during the years just before and after Discord's reign, but what we do know is that it's jumbled in the population around quite a bit, as we can see in the genetic record. It's really quite fascinating. You see, I'm sure it is.
Twilight interrupted with a forced polite smile.
But you still haven't explained how it's possible.
The doctor drew herself back, but unlike before, she showed no sign of fear or trepidation. Instead, one corner of her mouth quirked, as if in amusement.
Same way as any other DNA will get into your family history, princess. Simply put, somewhere in your family tree, there are at least 6 generations of Karens.
And there it was. The word finally said aloud, the word that confused Twilight so badly that it left her head spinning. She was part Kirin. Part Kirin. 15% to be precise. Just enough to influence her magic. Just enough to explain, well, a lot. Like her tendency to set herself on fire when she became too angry. Oh, and there was the time that she tried to comprehend Pinkie Pie's sense, but that was far from the only time that it had happened. In fact, it might happen right now. The doctor's candor set Twilight's teeth on edge. Her muscles rippled with tension, her hackles raised.
I don't suppose that there's any way of tracking who I'm related to?
She said, her voice coming across as testy. Citrus gave a gormless shrug.
We'd have to have a database of genetic samples from every Kirin in Equestria and more besides that to get an idea. I doubt that you're closely related to anyone around now. It was so long ago, Princess, but you could do it!
Twilight growled through gritted teeth.
You could tell me who I'm related to, who I can talk to, who I need to start studying from to understand that this bit of my family history I don't know! I suppose we can try,
Citrus said, after a moment. 2 weeks later, Twilight found herself standing outside a gaily painted house, bursting to life in such vivid reds and golds that it filled her mouth with the taste of autumn itself, which to her always tasted like pumpkin pie. Or maybe it was the rising odor of pie drifting from the open window. The fact that she hadn't had anything to eat during the 12 hours it took her to travel here didn't really help. She raised her hoof to tap on the door, only for it to slam itself open against the wall, taking her with it. As the ever-familiar pain of blunt impact trauma filled her skull, legs, wings, and barrel, Twilight just held on to her temper. Just. Then the door slammed shut, revealing a Kirin with a coat of grayish gold and a fluffy, lion-like mane of tangelo orange.
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry I didn't see you there. I was just coming out because I was so happy I was gonna have company. I made a pie, you see, and we're gonna have lots of fun chatting together, and I'm Autumn Blaze, by the way. You're Twilight Sparkle, right? You're Applejack and Fluttershy's friend. Oh, we're going to have so much fun together!
The constant stream of noise wormed its way into Twilight's ears, and she became more and more enraged by the second, until finally, inevitably, a flashpoint was reached. She screamed at the top of her lungs as her whole body ignited, her coat burning white hot with her mane lashing out like a towering inferno. For about 5 seconds. And then she was doused, not by her own magic, but by Autumn dumping a bucket of water all over her. Trails of smoke billowed and curled into the air all around her as she stood there, her chest heaving as she scowled at Autumn with all of her hate, wishing like crazy that she'd learned some sort of death glare spell just so she could use it now.
Why?
Autumn set the bucket down with a loud clang and slung her foreleg around Twilight's neck, pulling her in hard enough to cut off Twilight's air.
Oh, you just need to cool off a bit,
Autumn said cheerfully, as she rubbed a forehoof on Twilight's waterlogged mane, frizzing out her hair everywhere.
But don't worry, I know a whole lot of anger management techniques that'll be great for handling that. I can see where you get your Kirin genes from now. You look just like a unicorn version of an Eric, and it was so cool, but so hot at the same time. Oh, I don't mean that you're hot like you're attractive. I mean, you are, but I'm not saying that I'm like into you like that. Don't misunderstand. I'm just gonna make things awkward if you do so maybe let's go inside and have some food.
Twilight struggled out of Autumn's grip and let out a loud groan.
Yes, let's. Please.
Who doesn't love Kirins? They're just so adorable and amazing. They just have the best of almost every world out there. I was just kind of surprised that Twilight was freaking out over it. I would have thought that she would be excited or something like that. Regardless, pretty solid and very enjoyable stuff. Anywho, let's get on to our volcanic donators. Top donators: TacoCat598, Peter Coulthard, J Tin Man, Darkside, Ponyman, and Gauntlet. Zar630, Rayden, Blackmoonheart, Lovedragon, Dospo, Delta Omega, RuneScyther9852, Hunter Norman, Dash of Evergreen, Rhynie Dragonwolf, Secret Moon, Tall Rasha, The Toilet Snake, Sword Brethren Mordred, Ronin Wandering, Easy, Jack Hedge, Skyuchia, Leslie Prickett, Jordan Peterson, Crimson Kitten A9, Lightskin, Monster Kitty, Starlight Glimmer, Lightning Blitz, Squiddy Boy, David Sanchez, Soul Dragon, Gaggy, Trey, Shadow Drake, Joe Piercy, Alex F, Rainbow Dash, Teal'ca Anderson, TV Killer, John Becker, Leon Reynolds, Raven Speedster, Zach Rakau, Mystery CU, Edgar Garcia, One Kingdom 1, Nissa Rusan, Vizuri, Dyslexic Character Sheets, Just a Random Boy, Hotrick Plincart, A Crazy Person, Ponyman365, Neapolitan, 6 of 9, and Shyfire. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and live life to the fullest.